Excited to hear what's happening at Speechmatics. Now, you're the accuracy team lead.
Yeah, that's right.
On the machine learning side of the house.
Yep.
And you have kind of a data side, a machine learning side. Tell us a bit about what you do at Speechmatics.
Sure. So at Speechmatics, we provide the most accurate and inclusive speech-to-text technology on the market at the moment.
Yes.
And we sell to other businesses to slot into their services. So, this ranges from use cases like call centers,
Yep.
where they might want to do conversational AI or QA on what their agents are talking about.
Right.
We also do healthcare, financial kind of conversations, calls, as well as media broadcasting as well. So we provide our speech recognition across the whole market in that respect.
Right.
Yeah. So, and then specifically in the accuracy team, so we're made up of half machine learning engineers, half data engineers, and we're always looking to kind of streamline our pipelines to make sure we can, for example, build languages quicker.
Yes.
Add new languages, as well as doing research into new end-to-end architectures for speech recognition.
Right.
And we're also moving out now into more speech understanding, more natural language understanding, which sits on top of our transcription.
Okay.
So sentiment analysis, doing translation, doing summarization, all of these types of things now, which after speaking to a lot of people at the conference, that's key things to do for lots of businesses now,
right,
to really extract the value from what we talk about. So
yes,
my team's kind of working on all of those things together. So it's an exciting area. Yeah.
And how big is your team? How big
Yep.
is the accessibility, or sorry, not accessibility, the accuracy
The
team?
accuracy team, yeah.
Yeah.
So it's me and 7 others.
Okay.
So there's 8 of us. And then we have 2 other machine learning teams as well. There's the representations team.
Yep.
So they focus on self-supervised learning technology,
Okay.
which we can talk a lot about probably in a bit.
Yeah.
And then there's the enhancement team, and they have ownership of something called inverse text normalization, which ensures a professional output on our numeric entities or dates or currencies, as well as things like diarization, which is a system where it tells you who's speaking when. So we kind of have the ownership spread out across those machine learning teams like that.
And so let's dive into that a little bit more.
Sure.
So kind of break those areas down for us, because I think some people are leaning in right now.
Yeah, they're like,
tell me
what are
more.
all those
I
things?
love this stuff. And so you're like, I don't fully understand. So give it a little more detail.
Let's talk about self-supervised learning then. So,
Please.
Because this is the technology which really allows us to be the most inclusive speech rec on the market. So let's spend some time explaining that. So what self-supervised learning allows us to do is it allows us to access all the unlabeled audio data that's out there on the internet. Because usually when we train a speech recognition system, when we're training a thing called the acoustic model, you need to have someone to transcribe all those bits of audio. So, we can make sure that the system has a high probability for the correct sequence of words and a low probability for everything else. So that's
right.
When you train an acoustic model, that's what you're doing. But you're obviously limited by then the amount of labeled data you have, which then limits how good your systems can be. It limits how many voices you hear,
right,
which can affect inclusivity and create a kind of digital divide on speakers which are less representative in your data set.
right.
So self-supervised learning unlocks all of the other data,
Yes.
which is amazing. So the way I kind of like to describe it is actually thinking about it in the kind of computer vision space. So self-supervised learning means you don't need labels, and actually you train from the structure of the data itself. So what I mean by that is, say you've got some images.
Yeah.
If you train an image classifier, you need labels for cats, dogs, whatever. But with self-supervised learning, an example is you could take away a patch of pixels from the image and get your system to fill in the gaps.
Amazing.
To predict those pixels. Now this is really powerful because in order to fill in the gaps, you need to know about how edges work, about how corners work, how colors fit together. The bigger features on animals, like if you've taken away a patch of pixels that's the eye, well, you need to know kind of how those align with other bits.
Right.
You need to know all this high-level information, and it's exactly the same with speech. There's lots of examples of tasks you can set up with self-supervised learning, but it allows you to learn a hell of a lot more about speech. And it's a way of almost teaching a kid to understand you and speak before they write stuff down or translate something.
Yes.
It gives you that starting point.
Right.
So that's what we're heavily researching, and we found that these models, they scale really well.
Yeah.
And by that I mean you can increase the size of these models. We have loads of data, and when you use more compute as well, so those three things together, the loss just trucks down. You keep getting better and better, and then once you've got this model, you can use the internal representations from it, and it means that you can train a language identification system or an emotion detection system or speech recognition, and you get huge gains on those downstream tasks because this thing just understands speech in a very high level way, which is great.
And one thing that people don't understand is the need for great data when it comes to machine learning.
Sure.
So if I put in context of how people might understand it, like great movies and TV shows, doesn't matter if there's no Netflix distribution. Netflix having the ability to distribute content everywhere, doesn't matter if they don't have any content to distribute.
Yeah.
It's not the same, but there's some similarities there. You need not one or the other. It's not like great data or machine learning. It has to be both. So can you explain why that's true for the speech industry? Why is it important to have great data sets in order to put against the machine learning algorithms?
So there's two aspects of it. There's the aspect where you need really good coverage across all speakers, all accents, if you want to be able to get good accuracy on those speakers. So that's one aspect. Then the other aspect is it needs to be very well transcribed. If there's any errors, that the human transcribers made in your training data, that's going to start to, fool the system into doing the wrong kinds of things.
Right.
Then there's actually a third aspect as well, which is you want to normalize and clean your data so it's in a form which you expect. So you want to throw away all kind of complex punctuation.
Yes.
Or things like that. Or if there's different ways of saying the same thing, like Mr.
Yep.
You can write it out Mister or just Mr. dot, right?
Right.
So you want to normalize these kind of words to be just one thing. And then there's also, if you think about how numbers can be spoken, or how it can be written down, you can write them out in kind of full digit forms,
right,
or with the numbers themselves, with the currency symbol in front.
Right.
So to train these systems, a lot of the time you have to verbalize into spoken form. So kind of it makes it then a lot easier for the systems to understand long numbers.
Right.
Because your vocabulary can't have every single number there is out there. You need to split it up, right?
Yes.
And then you can apply inverse text normalization on the end to put it into the written form we care about. So having the currency signs in the nice place, having dates laid out in a nice format, all of those types of things. So all of this links back to data. Like you've got to have it in the right form. You've got to, you really do have to care a lot about it.
Yes.
And making sure you've got a decent quantity of it. But just one last point on it is, with the self-supervised learning, because you're utilizing all the unlabeled audio, it actually means that you can get away with using less data when it comes to the supervised part of the acoustic model. The sample efficiency is way, way better. It's like you can do the same with 10x less amount of data when you use this technology. So it's great for low resource languages, where you might only have 10 to 20 hours of data. So an example is Latvian or Lithuanian on like we only have about 20 hours for those languages, but we can get very good performance because we utilize this big self-supervised learning system.
Of course. As we wrap our conversation, what's the advantage of being at an event like Voice 22? Why does Speechmatics want to be here? We're glad you are. Right. But how do you personally benefit? What's good for your company coming together with 1,000 people in this industry?
So for me personally, it's been really good to have some of the conversations I've been having, especially with people who are doing conversational AI.
Yep.
It's not an area that I've really thought about too much, but So it's been great to hear more about how they're structuring the problem and how they're building the natural language understanding into their products to then make decisions on how you want to respond to what people are saying when they call up a call center or something.
Right.
So that for me has been personally really, really great. I think then for the company, it's been great to get the name out there. We've got the most accurate speech rec out there. We want to let people know.
Right.
We want to let people come to our stand and try it out and see how we do across our 48 languages. So yeah, I mean, if people haven't already come, then they should come to our stall and try us out.
Yeah, well, I agree.
Yeah.
So you're right there at the vendor booth, and you're at all the events, right? So people have accessibility to SpeechMatics. Well, John, it's so good to have you sit down with me.
Yeah,
Thanks for sharing with me. I'm always fascinated to see what I can learn from new people, and I learned some things from you, and so I appreciate it.
Great.
Good.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, absolutely. Anybody that's watching our conversation, thank you for your attention. My name is Ian Utile. I am the CEO at Attention Live. Look forward to bringing you more of these fireside chats here at Voice 22 in Washington, D.C. Have a very happy day.